Are you ready, kids?
Who? Me? I mean, like, ready for what exactly? And what kids are you referring to?
I can't hear you!
Oh, I get it now. You're the guy from the SpongeBob intro, aren't you? Oh, right. Aye, Captain.
Oh!
I already confessed my love to this show in previous videos before, so I won't get into any detail here on the show. If you don't know what SpongeBob is or never watched it before, then you are either 40 years old or a fully functional human being. What I am going to do instead is talk about one of the many low points during the show's lifespan, that being SpongeBob SquarePants, Atlantis Squarepantis, both the special and the game it's based on. I was obsessed with Atlantis Squarepantis back when I was a kid. I got the game first in May 2008, alongside LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga and Mario Kart Wii with the Wii Wheel. I ended up getting a DVD of the special for Christmas the same year. I vaguely remembered the hype for this special back in the day. You couldn't escape it for the longest time. Nickelodeon were advertising this like there was no tomorrow, and that this was going to be peak SpongeBob. But then again, they do that for every special they've released since the first movie. Like I said earlier, I was obsessed with both the special and the game. But I was a kid back then, and now I'm a kid in an adult's body. So, what are my opinions on the special and the game now? You know that horrible feeling you get when you stub your toe? Yeah, I'd rather experience that a million times over than having to endure the special and the game again. If you can't tell, I don't like either of them. I wouldn't go all of my way to say that I hate them, or say that they're the absolute lowest point for the series. Except maybe the game. Hate is a pretty strong word. I would use a term like reasonably apathetic to describe how I feel. This is pretty much going to be like my 2007 Simpsons video, where I looked at both the Simpsons movie and game. However, unlike the Simpsons, where the movie and game aren't connected, the Atlantis Squarepantis game is literally based off of the special. So sit back, relax, and have a doctor on standby, because we're now about to enter the Squarepantis of Atlantis. Released on the 12th of November 2007, the special begins with Patchy the pirate stuck in traffic, and let me just say this, I like Patchy a lot. In fact, let me just go on a bit of a tangent here. I find him to be one of the most underrated aspects of the entire show. He doesn't appear in every episode, but when he does, then you know you're in for a treat. Tom Kenny does a great job playing the president of the SpongeBob SquarePants fan club, although I find it funny that since Tom Kenny also voices SpongeBob, that technically means he's the leader of his own fan club. While I do enjoy his company whenever he shows up, here, I find him a bit annoying. Yet with that in mind, these segments are still the best part of the special. Just let that sink in. Anyway, somehow the entirety of Encino disappears, much to Patchy's shock. I won't explain how yet, just wait until the end because the how and the why is so bizarre, even by SpongeBob standards. Not even Hideo Kojima would think to write something like this, and he's the same man who created a bald, levitating gas mask wearing sidekick that can read your game console's memory cards.
You've been playing Super Mario Sunshine, haven't you?
Yes.
It's also worth pointing out that these Patchy segments weren't in the original airing of the special. They were added 11 days later. The special really begins with SpongeBob and Patrick blowing bubbles. Patrick's all sad because the bubbles keep popping. SpongeBob comforts him by singing. You can't be serious.
Oh, I'm being serious.
During the first 3 seasons of the show, whenever they include characters singing original songs, they more often than not were amazing. You've got Ripped Pants, Fun, I Wanna Go Home, The Very First Christmas, This Grill Is Not a Home, Sweet Victory, all you need is friends to fly.
I could do this all day.
Now I might be in the minority here when I say this, but I actually find most of the musical numbers in this special to be fine. I mean, they're not great or anything. They're memorable enough, and it's still a better musical than Joker 2. I actually think SpongeBob sounds decent enough when it comes to his vocal performances.
Is a deadly laser. Okay.
Squidward has a decent singing voice too, I guess. However, everyone else is terrible, especially Sandy's voice, which I find irritating. Okay, going back to the story here. SpongeBob blows a bubble so big it traps himself and Patrick, and they fly into a cave where they find one piece of an amulet. They take it to the museum, and it just so happens that Squidward, Mr. Krabs and Sandy were all inside at the same time.
The Amulet of Atlantis? Legend says...
Sandy, I don't think you're allowed to do that. This is a pretty big lineup of characters for this special. Sure, it's nowhere near as big as the cast in Avengers Endgame, but go on. Let's try making Atlantis Squarepantis' cast bigger. They could have added Larry, Mrs. Puff, Gary, the My Leg guy. Honestly, what am I doing here? Turns out that the other half of the amulet is already inside the museum, and when they combine together, it summons a magical, futuristic looking bus. Why does the inside of the bus look like horribly rendered CGI?
Nice hot rod flames. I am Optimus Prime.
Considering that most of the animation here is 2D drawn, which looks really good in fairness, it makes the interior of the bus look so out of place. Even the game had a better looking interior for the bus. Why am I spending so much time talking about the inside of a stupid bus? They discover that the bus would only move when someone sings. Well, at least they're not stuck with Burnley fans.
Burnley can fuck off.
Plankton's here because his voice actor, Mr. Lawrence, really needed money to pay for his delicious pancakes. He somehow sneaks onto the bus, and if I were him, I'd keep my mouth shut instead of singing so I wouldn't get caught. The bus takes them to the lost city of Atlantis, which is nothing like the Atlantis we know from the show. I know this show likes to give continuity the middle finger whenever it can, but back when I was younger, little stuff like this used to annoy me to no end. Nowadays, it doesn't bother me really. But if you're going to make changes to previously established lore, then at least make it good and not actively worse than what we got before. The way this city is designed looks terrible, and its people don't look any better. The gang meets the city's leader, the Lord Royal Highness, voiced by David Bowie.
I am the Lord Royal Highness, but my friends call me LRH.
You are horrifying to look at.
You're probably expecting me to ridicule this guy's name, but to be honest, I don't really feel like it. However, I will point out the fact that they hired an actual singer to voice a character in a musical, and yet they don't make him sing. Oh, the irony. He gives a tour of the palace, and it's there we realise just how advanced this civilization actually is. They got a huge treasury, a state-of-the-art science lab, and a sophisticated art gallery. Places that make Mr. Krabs, Sandy, and Squidward respectively want to stick around and indulge themselves. Meanwhile, Plankton finds a weapon storage facility and takes a tank for himself. Plankton wants to commit terrorism. Lord Royal Highness shows SpongeBob and Patrick the oldest living bubble, much to their excitement. The bubble is basically a god to the people of Atlantis, so SpongeBob and Patrick have to make sure they don't pop it. They pop it.
Oh dear.
They make their way to the dinner table, where Mr. Krabs, Squidward, Sandy, and the Lord Royal Highness are conversing. Patrick exclaims that they burst a bubble, but luckily for them, the bubble was a fake for tourists to see, and that the real oldest bubble was in possession of the Lord Royal Highness. Okay, brilliant. You got to see the real deal. Now don't make the same mistake twice.
You bastard! Who is fat?
Now, I might sound like a nitpicky prick from what I'm about to say here. The bubble bursts from a camera flash, yet earlier in the special, SpongeBob and Patrick tried to escape the bubble they created with force, and it wouldn't burst. My theory is that bubbles in Atlantis are weaker than those in Bikini Bottom. I won't accept any other theories, because how else can you explain these inconsistencies other than it being an excuse for an action-packed climax? Unsurprisingly, this leads to the royal guards chasing after them. The gang manage to escape the palace, but then Plankton arrives with his tank and shoots them. With ice cream.
You look like melted ice cream.
Fun fact, I hate strawberry ice cream. I mean, assuming that it is strawberry, I don't know what else it could be. I'm glad no one died, but why would a tank even shoot ice cream at all? I know this city loves its ice cream so much that they can make it in the machine without any ingredients. But what practical purpose does shooting it out of a tank have? Maybe it served as inspiration for Phil Lord and Chris Miller to make that one scene in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 years later. Plankton, of course, is shocked by what he just witnessed and then gets captured by Lord Royal Highness. He becomes a substitute for the bubble as a tourist attraction, and the gang return home on the bus. The end. I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, the Patchy segments. Patchy is still looking for Encino. He becomes so hopeless, hungry and thirsty that he starts to hallucinate and sees a small guy dressed as SpongeBob. The little SpongeBob tells Patchy to believe and all that stuff. He wakes up and he eventually finds Encino, but in the size of his hand. Why is that? Well, now is the time to explain. You see, aliens appear in front of him, and they say that their son was being irresponsible with his shrink ray, which explains why Encino became small. The aliens return the town to full size, and Patchy finally gets home. He then gets crushed by a giant Patchy the Parrot and dies. So that's Atlantis Squarepantis. Yeah, I don't like it. In the early days of the series, the creative team used to put out banger specials. You got Crispus Who, Party Pooper Pants, SpongeBob BC, and The Sponge Who Could Fly, or The Lost Episode, depending on your preference. If you look up the word perfection in the dictionary, you would find those specials as examples. Atlantis Squarepantis is nowhere near as bad as other specials. Truth or Square might just be worse. Even as a kid, I never liked it, so I doubt I'd like it now if I ever decide to rewatch it. Going back to Atlantis Squarepantis, it's a shame it ended up being a disappointment. This was probably the most ambitious and most epic thing to come out of the franchise at the time besides the first movie. But just like Flats, it floundered hard and it is a permanent stain on the series. I'm actually reluctant to call Atlantis Squarepantis the game a game at all. You know those interactive TV shows on Netflix? Yeah, well, it feels as though half the game is filled with those stupid things. You see, THQ, the game's publisher, used to release at least one new SpongeBob game every year from 2001 to 2011. Now, I haven't played most of them, but based on what I heard from different people, Battle for Bikini Bottom is really good, but aside from that, they are either okay or bad. By the time Atlantis Squarepantis came out, you can tell from the final product that they didn't have much time to work on a more complex game. It feels as though they were running out of ideas at this point in this yearly SpongeBob game cycle, because why else would they choose to base their game on some random special? I do feel kind of bad for the developers of the game, Blitz Games. They would go on to be dissolved in late 2013, 6 years after this game came out. This video will cover the Wii version, which is the one I own and the version that came out the same day as the special aired, 12th of November in North America. For whatever reason, it released on different platforms like the DS, PS2 and Game Boy Advance on different dates, which is weird. Don't know why that's the case. I also feel sorry for all you Xbox fans out there. since there is no version for either the original Xbox or the 360. Wait, what am I saying? Us PlayStation and Nintendo fans envy you guys. You lot should be grateful that there is no version for either of your consoles. Anyway, let's finally look at the game itself now. You've got the overhead platform puzzle stages, on-rails shooter stages, where instead of firing guns you throw Krabby Patties at enemies and take pictures, bus driving segments, tank shooting segments, and press the right button like Guitar Hero. That's it. For every level you play, you're given either a bronze, silver or gold medal, depending on how well you do. You can finish this game in like an hour or two, which is kinda pathetic considering you would have been paying full price for it back in the day. With that being said, however, playing this game feels like an eternity, despite how short it is. The worst thing about it is that the game should have been a lot shorter than it is, because you can tell they were padding out the levels longer than they had any right being. This game is way too easy. Now I get it, it's a kids game. I'm not asking for a game like this to be the second coming of Dark Souls, but come on man, this is ridiculous. While it may not be hard by any means, it is beyond boring because, again, of how unnecessarily long it is. The last level of the entire game is one of those press the right button segments, where you can see one of the Atlantean guards running to the skip to throw away the amulet. This level acts as a way of showing the end credits, and you literally cannot fail. Even if you put the controller down the entire time, the level will act like you're still playing. I don't know about you, but if I was back in school and I decided not to write down anything during a test, the teacher would take the belt out. Is there any extra content? Yes. You've got Arcade, where you play multiple mini-games. There's Swap Bob Spareface, where you can change SpongeBob's appearance with different clothes.
You like that? I call it standing sponge in pants.
Is that an erection joke? There's Art Viewer, where you can look at concept art. There's Cheats, where you enter cheat codes. They're only used for unlocking all levels, medals, concept art, arcade games, and commentaries. And last but not least, there's the shop, where you buy concept art, arcade games, and clothing items. If you exit the hub world, there's a section where you can view the trailer for a SpongeBob DVD. The graphics look very ugly.
Oh no!
I can't be ugly! I can't be! I can't be ugly! Am I ugly? My eyes! My eyes!
They look so lifeless. When you die, these designs will greet you in the afterlife. I do like how when you control Sandy in the on-rails missions, you can actually see her reflection bouncing off her helmet. Is it impressive? Kinda, but no, not really. In the Toy Story 2 game on PS1, when you go into aiming mode, you can actually see Buzz's reflection in his helmet, and that was 2 console generations ago. The music used in this game is kinda bad. I do like some of the background songs here, like in the second level where you are exploring the cave. And also this one in level 5 where you're driving the bus. Aside from them, the tracks are either completely forgettable or outright terrible. They don't even bother using the songs that were in the original special, which I think is the right move. I can't imagine those songs being implemented in such a way without it being forced. How about the voice acting? Well, it's about what you would expect. It's fine. Everyone has extensive speaking roles, except for Mr. Krabs. For whatever reason, Mr. Krabs doesn't speak at all. It's weird considering that when you look at the game's IMDb page, you can see Clancy Brown reprising his role as the cheap red crustacean. It's not like the rest of the cast don't speak. In fact, they don't shut up, especially SpongeBob, who always gives you a pep talk before every level. So it makes it all the more baffling as to why Mr. Krabs never speaks.
Let me talk! Let me talk! Let me talk! Let me talk!
You know what? I've had it up to here with this anti-crab propaganda. It is time for the crab fanboys to unite and give this shellfish a voice, because if they won't give Mr. Krabs dialogue, then I'll do it, damn it!
Oh, that's funny. You're gonna look funnier sucking my dick with no teeth.
Also, David Bowie doesn't return to voice the Lord Royal Highness. You could say he didn't want to be the star man of the game. Get it? He probably wanted to wait in the sky. He didn't want to go down and meet the game's casting directors because he'd think he'd blow their minds. This game is bad. I don't know what else to say. Honestly, I don't think this is even a contest. Sure, I don't like either the special or the game, but at least I wasn't bored while watching the former. The special had a lot more life put into it, while the game felt more like a waste of time. It's a game not made out of passion, but instead out of desperation and laziness. There are far worse games that exist, ones that are a lot more incompetent, but that doesn't mean it should be given a free pass. Revenge of the Flying Dutchman may be bad, believe me, I know, but at least it had the excuse of being the first 3D game in the series, as well as it being released during the early years of the Xbox, GameCube and PS2's lifespans. So of course there are going to be some growing pains. Atlantis Squarepantis, by contrast, came out the year after the Wii launched and halfway through the PS2's lifespan. The special itself is such a bizarre experience that for as bad as it is, there were some entertaining aspects to it, even if there weren't that many. So yeah, in conclusion, the special is clear by a country mile. No doubt about it. Honestly, after all I've been through today, if I ever see that little yellow sponge again, I'll punch it to smithereens.